we live in a very complex time. And, we live in a time effectively of identity politics. And one of the questions that I'm often asked by, global CEOs is, what is my role in this? How do I navigate this? And, historically, corporates would have a particular view, and their view would be what happens outside is not relevant to us per se. We'll stay neutral within social issues, political issues. We don't get involved in issues of social injustice and stuff like that. And I think actually there's been a number of kind of watershed moments which has fundamentally kind of collapsed that way of thinking. And the key one, I think, recent one, was the murder of George Floyd. And I think what the murder of George Floyd stimulated was a conversation amongst general populations and employees to say to their CEOs and their corporate leaders, you need to have a voice on this. You can't stay silent on social injustice. And so I think actually what's happened now is the notion that corporates stay silent on racism, sexism, homophobia is dead. And so that prevents or creates rather some interesting challenges for organizations, which is, well, what is our voice in this space and the rest of it? And I think that gets particularly complex because of the rise of identity politics. So we have lots of very, very conflicting views at the moment in society around things like institutional racism, white privilege. There's lots of debates around, trans rights and women's rights. There's lots of debates around, if you span the globe at the moment, there's lots of stuff going on in the US. Closer to home in the European Union, we have probably the furthest right wing party being elected in Germany than we've had since the Second World War. All across Europe, we've got things like LGBT free zones. We've got an extreme right wing, Italian government in Hungary and the rest of it. These are governments which are fundamentally, institutionally homophobic, sexist, racist, and the rest of it. And so corporates need to have a view on that. And it gets complex because all of those debates which go on outside seep into our corporate environment. So we have colleagues around us with lots and lots of different opinions. And so it becomes quite confusing for corporate leaders. And I think one of the things that we need to start doing, and the way to navigate this stuff, is by focusing on two big areas. And one is, it doesn't matter who you are or what your view is. We respect that. But there are limits to that. There are limits to being authentic. You're not entitled to come into our corporate structure and share anything you like under the guise of being authentic and having your authentic voice. There are limits to free speech. So we need to make sure that whoever you are basically on salary to make sure that your viewpoints and your behaviors align to organizational values. That's one thing corporates need to be really clear on. I think structurally, organizations need to move not from to, but we need to narrative up. And what I mean by that is we're heavily focused at the moment on diversity and inclusion, but we need to move towards this notion of corporate cohesion. So the structures that we have in our corporates at the moment, our ERGs, our policies, our processes, they're actually designed to silo people out. And one of the focus points going forward, if you like, is about saying, well, how do we make sure that we're bringing people together? And the only way that we can bring people together is start to develop policies and processes around corporate cohesion, as well as things around corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion as well.